Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Fellow citizens, following the sequence of events, Uganda seems to be at political crossroads.
I'm not a servant of anybody.
Madam, I know the law.
As such, Alternative Digital brings you the Interface Show with retired Colonel Dr. Kiza Besuje.
Let's keep on the same page on Alternative Digitalk,
As he gives you the alternatives on the transition question, rule of law, human rights and freedom, youth inclusion in governance, economic stagnation, as he confirms.
I'll be always here Saturday from 10 a.m. in the morning. Be there.
Don't miss the live discussion on the Alternative Uganda, Digitalk TV Facebook pages, and the Alternative Uganda YouTube channel.
The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Our viewers, I want to salute you for keeping it Alternative Digitalk, and also apologize for those few minutes that we have really consumed before we could come on air. We had some bit of a technical problem, but which has been sorted. In Uganda, East Africa and Africa as a continent, it is 7 p.m. It's 12 minutes past 7. And in Guyana, as far as I am informed, it's midday, also 12 minutes past midday. We are streaming live on our social media pages. That's the Alternative Uganda, and Digitalk TV. That's on Facebook. And let alone the show will be on our YouTube channel. That's the Alternative Uganda as well. Here in Uganda, Kampala City, I am Norman Tumuhimbise. I am with my co-host, Rogers. He should introduce himself first, and then we also tell the public and the entire world who our guest is today.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome to today's edition of Afro-Caribbean Link. Yes. In this one, we literally try to sort of, do cross-border, understand the issues that happen across the continents. I think the Caribbean is in the American, if I'm not mistaken, in the American continent. So we want to understand some of the issues and how we can find a common ground or solutions to some of those problems. My name is Roger Sturiabwe, and it is a pleasure to be here with the Honorable today.
Okay, our viewers, we are glad today to host Honorable, and you forgive me for in the event that I don't pronounce your name very correctly, but it's Honorable Flue-Bess. And she's a female MP in Guyana, and I would like to invite you, Honorable, to say hello to our viewers so that they can confirm that we're with you.
Thank you so much. Good evening to the folks in your country and those who are viewing at other parts of the world, and to those who are in Guyana and in the Caribbean. Good day to you. It's a privilege to be on your program today.
Thank you. If I would start straight away, who is this Honorable Flue-Bess? I mean, like our viewers, especially those that are in Africa and some other continents, would want to know who is this strong representative and a feminist and this human rights defender. Who is this Honorable Flue-Bess? Just a brief background about, yourself and the political journey as Flue-Bess.
I am a mother of 5, have a family. I'm a teacher by profession, a teacher of sociology and sports. I am a believer and a very active individual in my community and the work that I do. I love working with young people. And my direction into politics stems from what I saw growing up in my community, Mocha Arcadia, seeing how our village was marginalized and underdeveloped under the PPPC administration, and that drove me to become a more active individual in the community in helping our people to see that if we work together and if we put our ideas and thoughts together, we can help ourselves and make a difference and set a stage for the generations to come in the community. So basically, that's in a nutshell who I am, and I'm a member of the PNCR party, which is a part of the coalition.
Okay, you're welcome, Honorable. It is very good. It's a great pleasure to have you today. As an individual and Africa as a whole, I think it's important that we are listening in from that. You did mention that literally, I think you joined politics because of the marginalization that was happening. And most of the people in Guyana, especially those that who are black Africans, Afro-Guyanese, I think that is how we call them, have joined politics because they feel they have been marginalized by the PPP. And you did mention that you believe, or you joined with the belief that if people came together to collaborate, they would try to find some sort of solution. How far would you say that you have moved since you joined in your community? Has there been some sort of change? Do you think change has happened, or at least the very smallest of it?
Change that I would have seen taking place in my community is, one, we had a homework center established through my church to help the children in our community who was having a hard time getting internet access and resources that can help them to be successful in school. I can tell you from that startup of that center 14, a lot of children was able to benefit from accessing free resources. The resources was not only for the internet, but school supplies. The concept behind that particular work was to provide an opportunity for our students. You know, the parents might have been security guards that was not at home at a particular time, and the children at home, so they were unable to get their homework done. There were children whose parents couldn't afford to provide a supply of stationaries to keep them active in school and able to do their work effectively. And from that center, we provided free stationaries for children, and also there were individuals there who provided guidance to the children to complete their homework. That would be one that I can highlight. Secondly, sport, big thing in my community, especially the playing of football. As a young person growing up, I got involved by being the secretary for that group and helping the young men as much as I could in whatever they were doing in the club. Also, one of the things I keep encouraging persons, agriculture. You know, when you can plant your own food, grow your own food, and that will help not only economically, but in terms of your health. Being able to reap your own food is very, very important, and that is something that I would have also been a part, talking with my elders and encouraging persons to get involved with. So that would be just 3 basic things that I would like to share at this point on that.
Bring it to you and also ask, in Africa, in particular in our country, it becomes hard for a lady to contest and, I mean, you know, beat all the odds and become a leader. How has it been as in a woman? Because in Africa here, and I will use Uganda as a precedent, and also say that there is vote buying, like there's lots of expenses that one must go through for them to become leaders, no matter the level for which they contest for. How is it with your country, and in particular yourself and other ladies that have contested and either won or otherwise lost?
All right. In our country here in Guyana, our laws cater for 2/3 of the be it political party, whatever position you are vying for, that it be females. So that provided an opportunity for females to be further involved. Yes, they were involved, but that is important now that you have at least a 2/3 of whatever you're presenting be females to be a part of your political party or in the parliament and stuff like that. So that would have provided a platform for women to be more involved. I know that women would have been involved behind the scene. Like for me, my political involvement was started very young, but it was always behind the scene. You would not have seen me coming out to the front doing what I have to do, but it was done from behind the scenes. So the opportunity is there for women to be involved in politics and take up leadership role in helping to do nation building.
You seem to suggest that PNC as a party has done its best to mentor a girl child, if I may use that word, and that's the reason for which you and others have made it up there, unlike some of the political parties which will suffocate women and perhaps also, I mean, front the gentlemen. Is that what you seem to suggest?
I didn't get you clearly there.
In line with your submissions, you seem to suggest that PNC, as your political party, has done its best to mentor a girl child in matters of leadership and governance, which is literally different from so many political parties which have always tried their best to suffocate women. So does that mean that your party has played a bigger role, rather, to promote the leadership skills in you and so many others?
Yes, most definitely. We have a women's arm in the party, a very vibrant and active women's arm in the party that coordinates and organizes events that helps in empowering women and giving them an opportunity to serve and make a difference in society. So yes.
Yes, speaking of empowerment and women, you do have, if I'm not mistaken, a weekly show, if I'm not mistaken. I stand corrected if I am wrong. You do have a weekly show that you usually, for political reasons, speak about issues that are going on in the country, and now the PPP is doing some sort of disservice, especially to the Afro-Caribbean, Afro-Guyanese. How is that working out? Because I've seen some of the people who are supporters of the PPP saying that you're actually inciting violence, trying to create some sort of divisionism between the people who are supporting the PPP and the APNU, or specifically the Black Guyanese.
And Guyanese, the PPP government is marginalizing Afro-Guyanese. There's no doubt about it. As a representative of the East Bank, I'm going to talk about my area, just for the example. The communities that are predominantly supporting this PPPC regime, the services extended to them, it outweighs what is given to the predominantly Afro communities. If you go to Eccles or Grove, those are areas that are seen predominantly with persons who support the PPPC party. You would know, because when you go, you would see a lot of roads being done, a lot of infrastructural work being done, and all of that. As against Mocha Arcadia, where I'm from, you see what they did to the people at Caneville, where they broke down their homes. And you go to Caneville, another area, where you find a lot of Afro-Guyanese living. They actually have to beg to get a truck or something like a road. Now roads are being done there. If you go on the Linden-Suzaik Highway, it's the same thing. And so the widespread practice of a government that marginalizes one group of people as against another is widespread in Guyana. There's no doubt about that. And so the Afro-Guyanese are the persons who are feeling the blunt and the wrath of this government. And mind you, when they were in office 23 years prior to the coalition government, that was the exact action that they took. Like I said in my opening remarks, I got into politics because I saw what was done to my community, Mocha Arcadia. They flood our farmlands. There was no infrastructural work done in the community, and I could not sit down and allow that, and I would not encourage our people to sit down and allow a government to govern the affairs of this country in such a manner where one group of people are empowered as against another set who is being walked upon and trampled upon.
That's kind of interesting, but I want to ask you in particular, what is compelling me to ask this, it's because of some of the comments already that are flowing in. And I will quote some of the human rights defenders that this planet has had, and that's in particular Martin Luther King Jr. and others, who literally were against also blacks' supremacy. And in the event that blacks want to also be more superior than the whites, it's also regarded as racism. People seem to suggest that you and so many other blacks want to take on, like you want to, like you are racists, you literally want to own or rather be superior towards the rest of the groups or the races in Guyana. What do you have to say? Are you really fighting for the black supremacy, which in our view then will also be, I mean, it wouldn't be as different as the white supremacy? So what is your view? Are you literally trying to fight for the black supremacy or for equal rights, justice, fairness, and equity?
If I heard you correctly, you're asking, because you're breaking out, your audio is not so clear for me. I'm not getting you too clear, but you're finding out whether the fight is against one being supreme in one group to the other. I just want to get that clear.
Okay, let me repeat it briefly. What some of the viewers, not you alone, but even when we host some other leaders from Guyana and those that are even in exile, theirs is a section of Guyanese who say that some of you leaders and other blacks rather are not fighting for justice or fairness, but rather you are fighting for the blacks' supremacy. To mean you want to be so superior and powerful against the rest of the races in Guyana. And perhaps it would be clear, I mean, it would be fair for us to hear from you on what exactly do you fight for. I mean, aren't some other people's rights being abused? Are they behaving or becoming as radical in courts as you are, as Mr. Rickford and others are?
All right. I'm going to answer based on how I think I understood what you just said, because it's not still not too clear. But in my view, our fight is for equity, fairness, equal opportunity. Just like our one group of people is given the opportunity to get contracts and to enjoy the resources of this country, we would like to see that for all groups of people in this country. And it must be fair. That's what we want to see. You know, if you're to enjoy good governance as a people, there must be fairness in the distribution of resources, in the access or, to equality of opportunity. That is what you want to see. But our fight
Hello, Honorable, we seem to lose you. I hope we
supporters or group.
I hope we can get you. And yeah. Proceed, please. You're saying you're fighting for equity,
Yes.
and you please go ahead and substantiate.
Yes, I said it's unfair to have one group of persons given the opportunity to be empowered as against another group that is not given that opportunity. And that is what we have to keep fighting for, equality of equity in opportunities, so that our people, we can all successfully strive in this country.
To quote your words, in regards to the contracts that are being given to literally other races than the blacks, I mean, it might sound kind of tricky. do some of you, the people with the, the blacks in Guyana, do you have the capacity in the event that you're given such contracts? Because it also wouldn't make sense in courts awarding such contracts to people who are unable in terms of experience, resources. Imagine if someone gave you a contract to construct some kilometers of a road, and perhaps you have a smaller company, and maybe that's the reason for which the government awards such contracts to other big businessmen or mongrels, for lack of another word.
I still didn't get you clearly, but I'm going to try to answer you based on what I understood. In terms of equity for contracts and all these things, when it comes to the Afro-Guyanese, we have the skills. You know what you find now? A lot of these contracts are awarded to specific companies that are associated with the government, and then guess what? Those companies will subcontract the work to Afro-Guyanese companies. And that does not bring fairness. Why is it that we're not given the same opportunity to bid for these jobs and be treated fairly, and they don't find the process flawed? That is the big question. That is what we want to see happening, fairness, when it comes to these services that we are able to achieve it.
To ask you some of the questions that he has. You people don't simply sound to be hurt and disappointed about the leadership of the Guyanese leadership now. Wouldn't you behave exactly the same way these other people are behaving in the event that you were in government and you're in charge of awarding such contracts? Because it's common with it's common with leadership. You oppose so hard, and by the time you also grab that power, you do exactly. Perhaps by then, when you're in power, won't you also award the same contracts to blacks? As a mean to revenge. So you revenge economically by awarding such contracts to other blacks.
No. When we were in government, the coalition was in government, you saw equity, equal opportunities provided for all. You saw, if you go look at developmental plans, you would see developmental plans done in regions and communities as much as possible under the coalition government, because our vision was to provide a good life for all Guyanese. I don't know what's the vision of the PPPC administration currently. You have a vision, we had a vision where we were pushing to provide a good life for all Guyanese. I don't know what is the current vision of this PPPC administration. See, they're all over the place.
Thank you so much, Honorable, for those answers. I want to have some sort of related question to what you just answered. I listened to one of the campaigns you were making. You were on a rally, I think, last week, if I'm not mistaken. I think you were talking about something to do with the local government elections that are coming up. And you said that in the Granger administration, which ended about 2 years ago, I said that a lot of things were in order, a lot of people, people were treated fairly and all that sort of stuff. And you're saying that in the PPP administration that is running right now, things have gone sort of totally astray. I want to understand, the people who are supporting the PPP right now are saying that in the Granger administration was another thing, sort of the same way that you're describing the current one. Who is telling the truth? Who should we believe? How do we know that you are doing what is best in the previous administration, or you did not actually do that much, that these ones just added on what was already was? Or you did not actually do that much, that these ones just added on what was already was?
The truth is there, the evidence is there. We have the evidence. You can go to these areas and see where the works were done. You can see young people who were trained on the programs of skill training and small businesses. You can go around the country and see that. But again, politics being what it is with some people, the PPP will always try to distort the truth that is there. You can go and see for yourself. We have a list of all the projects that were done, and if people move around, they want to be fair. And again, I want to give an example from home. My community, there were 2 bridges to enter our community. Under the PPPC administration, when you drove on those bridges, it was rickety-rockety, shaking right through. Had it not been for the coalition government, we would not have had 2 concrete bridges built to the community. So our community, the persons there, was able to drive on better bridges to get in there. We didn't have no roads, none. All the roads were in deplorable conditions, and if persons go on my page, they will see them. I can repost them often so that persons are reminded, when we forget our past, what happens. Sometimes we tend to forget, but it's always good to remind people. We got roads because of the coalition government. Our farmers were able to return to the farmlands because of the coalition government. They did a rate project. And guess what? As soon as the PPPC government took office, they blocked the main drainage canals for our farmlands, and hence our markets were affected.
We seem to lose you just a bit. I don't know if it's a network problem. Okay, I think that literally had reached, she had made her point. And I want now to focus on what the issue is for today. We can have the politics of APNU and the PPP and that we can talk about for days. But now we want to also look at the women, their role in this whole struggle, because we are saying, for example, as you are in the opposition, we want to understand all of these issues that you're talking about that are happening. How are you as women trying to contribute in the struggle to make sure that good governance does come to happen in this country?
For females or women in leadership that could help with good governance, first of all, we have a voice. And you know the women, right? We have a voice that we can speak. We can identify issues. We can highlight issues that are affecting our people, to help the government to understand that they need to pay attention to that. We can move to the place of doing petitions, legislations, writing things, presenting them to the parliament and every possible opportunity as women to help with what's happening. In our country, cost of living is a very, very serious factor that is affecting the lives of people. You go to the market, every time you go, the prices go up, and your salaries are not increasing, your income is not increasing, and the government seems not to hear that there needs to be more support given for families to function effectively. Now, as women, this is something that we can talk about, because most of the time, we are the ones who go to the market and shop and prepare for our families. We're feeling it a lot when the husbands or your spouse come home and give you your monies to do whatever shopping you have to do. We're the ones that have to decide how we will go through it. The women are there planning the budgets and trying.
Your internet, Honorable, I don't know if it's the internet. We are losing you. So if you could get back, you still had a point you are still making. We wanted to understand, as from the perspective of someone who is a leader. You are still making your point. If you could still go ahead and finalize it.
Yes, from a leader position, I must let the world know that where I sit, I don't just sit easily and quietly, but I'm always out and about with the people to understand what are the struggles of our people and how they can work to make a difference. Educating our people is important. keeping them informed with what is happening is absolutely important. Many times, things go by the way and persons don't hear or they don't see. And that's our role, to make it known and do what we can to make the difference where we are.
When you follow the sequence of events, in particular, most of the demonstrations and the conflicts you people have had are so much related onto land. And some of the people in government in Guyana have always had the argument that you people do not want, you are enemies of development. When they come and they want to construct schools or roads, you incite people to burn to buy the machinery and to burn such construction machinery and the rest. Is it possible for any government ever on earth to develop their people minus having such conflicts? Because literally you will find citizens resisting such development. Even in Uganda here, in Uganda or even in Africa in particular, you will find issues. You want to construct a road, you will have issues with the compensation. Even when you compensate people, they don't want to live. And then before you know it, there is a lot of fracas. How different is it in your country now? Are you pro-development or you are against development? There is a lot of fracas. How different is it in your country now? Are you pro-development or you are against? Can you hear me?
We love development. But development, people must be respected. Their rights must be respected, even as you pursue development. Again, I like to speak from experience. The people at Cane View that were graded down by this, people claimed that they would have negotiated with the remaining individuals in terms of having them removed and publish a whole lot of false information that they had already established prices for these people. I can tell you those information are not accurate. What can you give somebody who is self-employed, gainfully self-employed, to tell them that they must get rid of their livelihood, their main source of income, so that you can claim to build a road? If you go to that area currently now, these people were graded down on the 5th of January. Today is the 1st of March. All you see there is a whole pile of mud in that area. If the government is serious about development, why is it that they cannot engage people in the right manner? That is important if you're talking about development. You have to engage the people. Those persons spent 30 years of their lives there building and establishing, but the truth is, no road works is going where those people were going. And I can produce evidence to that. I will have to send some videos and photos so that you people can probably share it. No work in terms of the road is not in that area where they grade down those people. Those people could have remained there. And if the government was so serious about engaging them properly, they would have.
Okay, Honorable. Now it's a tricky one. There are lots of comments, and our remaining minutes, perhaps my co-host could ask the questions that he has, and then we dive into the comments, because literally most of the comments here they need answers from you. There is a one, Stanley something. He has a lot. Maybe we have.
Before you get into the comments, I just have one more question. We have had this problem, especially, I think, it's not an African problem, really. It's a general problem. We have women who are in governments, but they are sort of puppets. They're only there for show. And so for the most part, you realize that most of them are there so the country will portray this image of the affirmative action. The country is serious on gender empowerment and equality of gender and equity and all that kind of stuff. Is it because you did mention when you were beginning that about 2/3, if I'm not mistaken, are women, I think, is it in the National Assembly of the government? You'll correct me where I am wrong. But are these women who are holding these positions actually doing any sort of change and influence as far as women themselves in governance is concerned?
I didn't get you quite clear there. You said, I mentioned about the percentage of women involved in politics, and some of them are being puppets, you said? Is it puppets the word you use?
It is happening around the world. And I'm asking if what is happening in some of the other countries around the world is actually also happening in Guyana. You'll see women who are in positions of leadership, but usually are there for sure. They are literally just occupying those offices, but with absolutely no power to effect any sort of change.
Okay. We have a responsibility when we are in that position, and yes, we know that that happens. But as a woman, as a female member of parliament, I always research, check, and look at ways and means how I can make a difference and get my colleagues to do the same. We work together as women on any particular issue or stuff that might be affecting the individual. So for those women who might be just sitting there and feel that you cannot make a difference, I can tell you, nothing like when you come together as women to work on a particular issue, you will see some progress or movement forward in whatever is there to be done. So you don't just have to sit and make no contribution, but you personally might not be able to make your own contribution, but when you have the support of other women in whatever area you are, you can make a difference.
We dive into comments. There are so many, and I'll begin with a one Stanley Hamilton. He says, I don't know, he says, Nina, you were in government for 5 years. And
I was looking at that very well.
Yeah, that Nina, you were in government for 5 years, yes, and your community came down to the gutter. Today, your community has gotten new roads and lots more incentives for the farmers. Yeah, you're in government, and this person, Stanley Hamilton, says you were in government for 5 years, and your community didn't benefit anything until now that you are not in government, that you people have, good roads. What do you have to tell Stanley Hamilton?
I would respond to that by saying to that individual, you really don't know what you're speaking of, so I wouldn't waste my energy to answer you, because if you had known, you would not have made that comment.
You have, again, any comments?
There's one who from the same person. He says Nina instigates violence in Guyana, and you and your other fellow women in the PNC disrupted the Guyana parliament, even stealing the mess and broke it. Is this a good example? I don't know about...
Here again, what I will say to that individual, when you have little knowledge of issues and you want to make your comments, pay attention to what is happening. When we were in the parliament, we were there to represent the interests of our nation, our people. So he should probably spend some time investigating and then come back with his comment. I have no audio.
Another viewer, I don't know, the name is Guyana nowadays, says, tell your PPP, you hear me?
Now I'm hearing you, now.
Honorable, can you hear me?
Now I'm hearing you.
Okay, fine. That tell your PPP/C government to try to stop with the election petition from getting a hearing on the court of law, so the world can see who is real rigger. I think it goes in, it's in line with what my co-host was asking you on whether you have that preparedness to participate in the local council elections, which we suppose are yet to happen there. How organized are you as a party and your other allies in the
Yes. The person that spoke is referencing the petition that we have in the courts. And again, with this action, justice and fairness, no. So you see, the petition is in the court and we're waiting to see some movement on it.
Don Sullivan, he says, Nima, I admire your courage, keep speaking the truth. Ignore the idiots with their negative comments. Well, let's not call them idiots because they have their opinions, they are entitled to them.
Stanley adds that you are about to rig elections. I don't know how he got the information. He says, ask Nina to comment on her PNC party trying to rig the 2020 Guyana elections in live camera in front of the whole world.
Again, that individual, I say to them, they can bury their head in the sand, but the truth always stands out.
No, most of them really are responses to each other, so I don't think there's so much that is going to come out. But now he hinted about the local government elections that are going to be coming up. Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, they are supposed to happen this month. I stand corrected again. How ready are you as APNU? I understand it's sort of a coalition of a lot of opposition parties. Are you ready for these elections? And do you think you can take leverage on them to make some sort of change in the country?
Well, we are working and getting ourselves where we ought to. Local governance is very critical and important. Had it not been for local governance or local government elections, I would not have been where I am, because I was able to serve as the deputy chair for my community for 6 years before getting into the parliament. And I would say to people, and again, I want to remind people, local governance is about your business. And therefore, you should ensure that the persons you elect for leadership in your community are persons who are passionate about seeing development of your community. It should not be persons who can be bought. Who can be bought and can destroy your community. It is very, very serious. I always encourage persons, I walk around and I tell people, if you want to preserve your community, especially with what's happening with this administration, it's critical that you elect people who will represent the interests of your community and not persons who will represent the interests of their pockets. That if the government decided, you know what, we want to take away the land space that you have there because you're having persons who can be bought, they will have it. But if you have persons who are thinking about the interest and the development of your community, definitely you will be able to protect your community. And yes, we are ready for that. We will provide persons who have an interest in seeing your community develop.
Honorable, I have this for you, given the fact that you belong to a young generation. In Africa and in Uganda in particular, young people are fond of hanging posters, becoming DJs on rallies and, dancing for candidates. How are young people concentrated and determined to change the status quo? Do you equally have young people hanging posters, or they are directly involved in this entire electoral process?
Yes, we have, that's our setup for our candidates. If I hear you correctly, right? Because I'm having a little audio trouble. And we will have our different campaigns and stuff ongoing so that persons can be fully au fait with what are the plans projected to help enhance communities and the local authorities area.
Contributions of young people in the entire electoral processes, as in are young people active, as in not simply being participated, but are they participating progressively?
Yes, we have young people that are active. I have a lot of youths that I'm working with and I work with regularly. Of course, because of the vindictiveness that likely to take place in this country with this administration when it comes to people being too public with certain things, you know, it will cause them a little apprehension. But like I said to people, you do not allow anyone to determine when you can make a difference. You look at it and you work towards making your difference and don't allow anyone to stop you from doing that.
Same line, I want to ask you also on whether or not you have any specific shortcomings in the entire process as is now. The previous, some of the shows we had some time ago when we were trying to discuss with the leader of opposition, Mr. Newton.
Aubrey Newton.
Yeah, Aubrey Newton. I mean, there were some voices in regards to the register, the vote register. How is it? I mean, how is this voter register? Is it in your favor? Is it in the government's favor? Is it balanced, or it is just there? So you want to simply participate in an electoral process, which you already know that from the onset, the entire process is rigged.
Well, this will be my personal answer. We are ready, and the coalition will be back in government. That will be my answer.
Thank you for your answer. Now I have a follow-up. There's one person who says that the coalition opposition, which is the APNU and the AFC, if I'm not mistaken, that you had boycotted, you had said you would boycott these elections that are going to be coming up. What changed? What happened? And why did you want to boycott in the first place?
This is how I'm going to answer your question. We have to look after the interests of our people. That's how I'll answer that question. We have to look after the interests of our people. And we will do what is necessary to look after the interests of our people.
But would you now say that you are contented with the process as is now?
No, it's not. Because I can tell you, the process as it is like if we're playing domino. One day it is set for this time, then something shifts to another time, and then something shifts again, and then something changes. But we are paying close attention because we have to represent our people.
Honorable, politics is a zero-sum game. Whoever has the opportunity to take, they take everything. There's usually no room for this is for me, this is for you. But I think we are sort of coming to a conclusion.
Yeah,
of
we have
today's show
like a few minutes, yeah.
Yeah, time seems to be running out. But I want to ask you to make a call to especially the women in leadership. I understand that even PPP has women leaders. And so I want to understand, how do you think you can leverage on, women are women, this is gender. And at least some issues that are affecting women are cross-cutting. It's not about the PPP or the ones in the opposition. How do you think you can make a collaboration or collaborate with the people, the women specifically who are in the PPP party, in the government, to make sure that you try to find solutions for issues that are affecting specifically women in Guyana?
Well, first of all, I am prepared to engage people, women, who think logically about the interests of our people. I'm not prepared to work with people who don't put the interests of people first. As politicians, as leaders, our ultimate goal is to represent the interests of our people. And once we have comrades on the other side that are willing to do that, I don't have a problem doing what I can to make a difference in whatever areas. But again, it must be first about our people.
I have this question for you from your viewer, and this is Andrew Wicks. Also ask Honorable Nina if the PPP stroke C is serious about local government elections, and if there are moves to have Venezuelans registered as voters. I think it seems to suggest that you have foreigners in your register, and this person is wondering on whether, I mean, you want to participate in already a rigged process where there are Venezuelans being part of the voters in your register.
Well, there's a lot of activities happening, and like I said, we are monitoring what is happening. If they're serious, I doubt. Under the coalition, we were serious about local government election, and hence, we had 2 local government elections in the period that we had, so the people on the ground was able to manage and control the affairs of their community. Where we see what's happening under this PPPC administration and previous administration of the PPPC, local governance is not something that they are really up to. But let's see.
Your other viewer here, I think they are not convinced with the argument on how the government is displacing people, and he says that 28 squatters over the 35 that took up the offer from the government to relocate the squatters, they were given free homes and relocation help. So I think it's in line with compensations and the land wrangles that you people have. But in our remaining 4 minutes, I will ask you to politely ask your citizens to, to participate in the process, like you said that you're ready, and ask for the votes, so that because they are viewing the show, ask them to support you. Precisely in the last 4 or so minutes that we have.
All right. To our viewers, the viewers that are paying attention, you know and you see the dedication and the commitment that we have in representing the interests of our people. And that should be a driving force for you to pay close attention and vote correctly when the time comes, so that we could have good governance in our country. I want to encourage you to be informed, stay informed, and don't worry with propaganda. The viewer who gave the comment about the 28, not squatters, they're residents. Those persons would have lived at Caneview for 30 years, so they're not squatters. And I would also want to, before I finish here, to remind people that those persons, those lands was given to the grandparents of those people for cattle rearing. So they're not squatters. They're ancestral lands, and it was used for agricultural purposes. And therefore, I would like that to be respected, and I want to encourage the government to do the right thing. Do the right thing, encourage the government to do the right thing, engage the people properly, and they owe them quite a lot.
It can, I think, to push your day. I understand it's around lunchtime in your country. Dr. Matthew says, yes, I will support Nina. Anything that you have? That
No,
you have
I was actually looking at that especially. You already have one supporter.
Yeah, you already have.
You're going away with Dr. Matthews.
So next time, Honorable, when you're in power, you literally have to invite us, and we come. We come and hold you accountable, because you said you do things differently. So, yes. Any closing remarks, Rogers and
for me, it's really to thank you so much, first of all, for the fight that you're putting up. I watched one of those shows that you do, and the rally that you are a part of, and you are making very strong invitations for people to participate, to be active in what is going on. And if there's some sort of injustice, people should not sit back. They need to also try to put a block on building a better future. And so I think that is a very great work that you're doing, and I hope that you build much better on that. But also to mention that when you get in government, please don't do as the things that you are castigating the others for doing right now.
We shall be here to host other opposition now,
exactly.
pinning you about your deeds.
Yes.
We call it a day from Africa, Uganda in particular, Kampala City, and also saying goodbye to the Guyanese watching who are going to have lunch. I'm sure it's coming to 1 p.m. See you next Wednesday. May God bless all of us.